Why will an Indian want Korean skin? It is so frustrating. We have patients who come and say, I want the Korean glass skin. Imagine trying to achieve that.
Dr. Falguni Shah is a gold medalist dermatologist, celebrity skin expert, and founder of Radiant Skin Clinic, renowned for transforming faces with cutting edge, non surgical anti aging solutions.
There is no permanent solution in skin. It's not that those solutions are temporary, but your age is temporary.
Everywhere the skin bias exists in some form or the other. In our country, obviously, it's massive. How does this skin color dynamics affect a person's mental health?
We have parents who get the daughter to us and say that, can you make her a couple of shades lighter? It will be easier for her to get married.
I see tons and tons of videos of regular girls and regular boys making videos of night routine. So they do this 10 step and they bought these very expensive products. It makes me question whether the products have sponsored this.
The stress talk, it is going to show on your skin. I think I can actually say that the anxiety of beauty has come because of
So, Dr. Falguni, tell us what is the first thing people get wrong about skincare and cosmetology?
So I would like to begin with saying that skin is the largest organ of your body. Now, what happens is when people try taking skin as just a beauty organ, they walk into your office or your clinic thinking that they're going to look more beautiful, whereas the concept has to be you need to make your skin healthy and medically right. You will look good by itself. So here we need to distinguish between medically getting your skin all right or just painting it like going to a salon. So I think this is something that we need to rectify when you talk about skin as an organ, which is a healthy organ versus a beauty organ.
And what is the biggest misconception about cosmetology today?
I think it is probably following the same answer that I gave, that cosmetology should get limited to probably making your skin good, look good temporarily, which is just a step above doing a facial or a cleanup or maybe just makeup. But when we are talking about skin health, we are talking about correcting it at the molecular level. That means getting the blood supply, the nerve supply, the skin production, stimulation, all right. So we need to treat it more medically for it to be healthier internally.
Do you think people come to fix their skin or do you think they come to fix how they feel in their skin?
Well, I think the both are connected because there was a time when people used to feel that if I feel good, or rather, books used to say that if you feel good, you look good. This does get limited a little bit to theory because it makes sense now to say that if you look good, it may help in making you feel good as well. So I think both are interrelated and it also is very individual at that.
Do you think self-esteem has a lot to do with how people feel about themselves? Because, if somebody has high self-esteem, for example, they automatically don't see themselves as ugly, fat, bad skin, dark, whatever the derogatory terms are that people use for themselves. But when they have low self-esteem, they automatically feel like there's so much they need to correct. So, one is surface level. I can see that my skin is full of pimples and I need to come to a dermatologist and fix it. But one is more like the inner self, the inner critique is so large that you start to see things that don't actually exist on your face.
That's absolutely true. But I also would like to put in a word out here that today's day and age is a little bit different from what we were in the yesteryears. Today, and this is irrespective of whether you're a man or a woman, that when you're out there, a lot of your relevance is taken by the way you appear as well. So if I would give you an example on this, that when I did my MBBS and which I did my post-graduation in the society where I come from, I mean building where I came from, I was probably the only one doing medicine there. Today in that same building, which is an upper middle class or middle class society, there are at least 4-5 girls and boys doing medicine. So in those days, it was okay to feel that you're a doctor, you don't need to look good. But today, when there are 5 people doing medicine, and if the same doctor walks into an hospital for an interview with probably the same credentials and degree, people will notice on who appears. So the world has changed a tad bit. Having said this, I would like to say that nothing will ever be perfect till your self-esteem is restored. So I don't think we can separate the two. It's going to be always what came first, the egg or the chicken. That fight continues.
Yeah.
But I feel if you don't have good self-esteem, whatever I do for my patient or client, he's not going to be happy.
Exactly, that's my point, right? Like self esteem plays such a large role in how we approach our body, our health, our fitness, our skin. So, what does our skin say as a specialist? Tell us about our stress, our lifestyle, or even trauma. Does it show?
Oh, absolutely. Like right now, maybe I'm looking more stressed because I'm talking to you, and or and like you just said a minute ago that we're going to have a conversation. So the minute I get into that field that I'm going to have a conversation with you, I'm suddenly going to look a little better. So coming to the point that yes, your stress plays a huge role, and there is a people just keep asking most often, and if I see reels also, they say, "What is the skin food which is most important?" And then you come up with blueberries and raspberries and etc. But the only skin food which makes you look good is your hormones. And which is the skin hormone? The endorphin or the serotonin, which is also called or mimicked as the happy hormone. So, of course, if you're going to feel good, you're going to look good because your hormone is going to be the good hormone. So, if you're stressed out, it is going to show on your skin, whatever and whichever way you want to try to hide it. So, stress is the biggest deterrent from a good, happy skin.
And what does our skin say about our lifestyle? Like, for example, what does my skin say about my lifestyle?
I know you a little personally also, so I would say yes, it shows that you are into fitness. And when we say fitness, it's fitness of the body and the mind. So, what is it like which will be on your skin if you are someone who's into fitness or someone who is leading a good lifestyle? Is it about the color? Is it about the glow? I feel the biggest thing is your skin looks healthy. And when I say healthy, it looks disease free and it looks well slept, it looks well hydrated. So if I look at your skin, I'm going to say yes, I think you are mentally calmer, and that's why your skin is also calm. And I think we do make this out whenever someone walks into my office. The first thing I try to understand is from the smile they have on their face, whether it's a smile which they have put on to greet me or it is something which is coming from within. And years of practice, because I finished 21 years into my practice, I think now I'm following energies, I'm following what are they throwing to me, the faith they come with, or whether they're coming to me in distress, which is society driven, or they're coming to me because they want to look a certain way. So stress is huge where skin is concerned. And also, before I finish this, I think because it's an external organ, I think your skin is the first to show the stress. You're not going to go and do a blood test to find out if your lipid profile is great when you have stress, but it will show on your skin. So it's a window of what's happening inside.
Yeah, I think it's almost a first sign, right?
Right.
Like if your skin starts to break out, let's say before your menstrual cycle. So people are like, oh, that happens to me. But it is obviously not food related, it is hormone related.
Absolutely.
So, like you said, if the hormones are going up and down, then it starts to show on the skin.
Hmm.
And if somebody is really underslept, really stressed, probably their hormones will go up and down and it'll show on the skin dark circles, pigmentation,
Yeah.
or lines or dullness. Yeah, whatever your skin calling is, whatever
Yeah.
the downside to your skin,
Yeah.
however your skin reacts, I think it kind of shows. So tell me, people approach dermatology very differently in today's day and age. I'm sure to when your practice actually started. Back then it was to fix the skin. Now I think it's to fix the skin and fix yourself. Because now I think emotions are intertwined with the external so much,
Yeah.
that external validation has become so big that I think the lines are blurred between fixing the top layer and fixing the inner layer. So can you tell me where's the line between enhancing beauty and numbing insecurity?
Let me first start with this, that I will ask you this because I ask this to most of the people whom I meet. That there are days when you wake up in the morning, right, and you see yourself and you feel you're looking nice. There are days when you wake up in the morning and you feel that you're not looking nice. And this has nothing to do whether you are approaching your period. It has nothing to do whether you have slept well or not slept well. That's because your skin is responding to almost everything that you're feeling inside. And when I say this, I feel that about myself also, that if I've slept with too many thoughts in my mind and I wake up and I feel I'm not looking so great, and suddenly when I'm going out there to work, I'm not feeling too good about it also. is this insecurity, or is it just that I can validate myself better if my skin is validating me? So it's interrelated. I'm not going to now call this insecurity. Of course, there is insecurity wherein whatever you do for someone, they're not going to feel good or look good. That is a separate psychological problem where it has to be fixed. And I think those are don't we all say that your psychology and dermatologists have to go together? Even in our medical college, we used to say that the dermat department and the psychiatric department should be next to each other.
I completely agree.
Because we used to say that whatever we can't do, I'm going to send it to the psych department. And they would say, finally, to complete the picture, we'll send it to the derm department. So they are interrelated. That's a no-brainer. But can I help somebody feel more secure by making them look a tad bit better? And I think yes. I would like to conclude this after so many years of practice. You had asked me this question when probably I was younger in practice. I would have said, oh no, I'm going to give more importance to self-esteem and this. But I thought that I did have a patient who come to me who was unable to get a job in an airline. And it was playing on her psychologically. Of course, it was playing on her financially as well. But finally, when we fixed her skin, she didn't get a job with the same airline. But she was fine because she thought that now it is up to her to go and get a job somewhere else. So she actually told me, and I have this written in my clinic also, that doc, thank you for making me feel good by making me look good. And that had a huge impact on the way I started dealing with my patients because I started listening to them. When they were saying, I'm not feeling good, I started realizing that if I could help by the external appearance, maybe it will help internally as well.
So let's move on to a very important topic of today's day and age, Botox.
Yeah.
Why has no expression become the new expression?
You know what, I can actually say this, that maybe no expression is actually a bad result of Botox. It's not the way Botox is supposed to be. And why it has become the norm, I feel, is people are not understanding the difference between lines and wrinkles. Because lines don't mean aging. And lines mean expression. So I think when you're losing that connect between wrinkles and lines, people have started thinking that this is normal. I've actually seen reels of influencers where they're talking about the skin being stretched and shiny, and that's the good skin to have. In fact, I just sent that reel to my daughter also, that they had plastic surgeons who were talking about how if you stretch the skin, it's supposed to look good. And that's how the Korean glass skin concept also came in, because it meant that you need to look like an egg.
Correct.
With no variations on your skin.
Yeah.
So is this just the influencer marketing which has made it like that people are trying to think that this is the way a normal skin is supposed to look?
But I've
So-
seen lots of doctors making reels and promoting it as well.
Yeah, that's
Not
what I'm
just
saying.
influencers. Then you start to believe like these are people who are professionals from this field. And if they are saying it has to be true. They are saying, oh, why don't you remove everything from here and everything
Thing
from here and
there.
everything from
Yeah,
here
yeah.
and look like one little plastic doll. If they're promoting that, then at some point people, like I said, who have the low self-esteem, who are
Will-
more gullible, who feel like, yeah, if I get that, I'll do better in life. I'll look better. I'll feel better. If that's the mindset, then they're so easily convinced.
I'm sure, yeah. So it is a very thin line between, again, who needs to change first. Whether somebody who is catering to the industry or the people needs to change, or the people. So I'll give you another instance here. I had a patient who came to me where we were fixing her forehead for the wrinkles. And we gave a certain number of dosage, and I think
And this
Uh,
is Botox.
this is Botox. So before we go further, Botox is actually a brand name. So the drug is botulinum toxin. Botox is the brand name, and it's become like Xerox because he had the first mover advantage. So all botulinum toxins are called Botox.
Okay.
We are actually promoting a brand if you're talking about Botox.
But the
because-
treatment is called something else.
The drug content is botulinum toxin. We have Botox, Xeomin, Dysport. All these are various brands. In
Okay.
our country, people have equated everything to Botox. Every needle and syringe is called Botox, which is not true. So anyway, when we were injecting her, and a little bit, excess happened than required. We all are human beings, and I realized it when she came back, and I could have reversed it. And she was loving the result. So when she came next time after 6 months to re-inject, I was careful with her and I gave her less. She actually came back to me and said, I'm not happy with what you did this time. I liked what you did last time. So it is what people want. And who has started it? Like I'm saying, it could be the doctors who are acting as influencers
And the
celebrities who are also
promoting it in some way.
promoting it. And also another thing, Ashna, what they're doing is they're calling this result, they're not even accepting it that they have Botox. They will say it's beetroot or olive oil. Now that is something which is really misleading,
Yeah.
and that
I
also
have
needs to
seen some,
change.
skincare routine videos
Yeah.
where they talk about they have these 20 things that they do at night before they sleep, but I'm sure it's plain Botox.
Absolutely. I mean, how can beetroot, olive oil, or a 7-step skin routine take away wrinkles? I mean, it's biologically not possible.
Correct. So tell me, all these clients that you have and they walk in, are they driven with trend or they're driven with personal need today?
I think it's both. I cannot put a category and say this one is trend and this one is personal need. And again, there was a time when looking a certain way was driven by a profession. Like if you are an actor, if you're a model, then you need to look a certain way. That line has also blurred.
Yeah,
So
everyone wants
Everyone
to be,
wants to look. Is this because of Instagram? Is this because of people taking selfies? Is this because earlier we had only Facebook where content was not just pictures, and then came Instagram where contents was only pictures. So I don't know what has changed, but this need has become universal. So it is one enhancing the other. It's the trend causing the need and the need causing the trend.
So I'm sure you have clients come in with really crazy demands and they want everything done to their face because
Yeah.
they want to look like a Hollywood actor or an actress, and
Yeah,
they've seen
yeah.
some pictures and they feel like this is achievable in one go.
Okay, now this I have done multiple times, and I'm going to give you one example where it actually went toxic. I had this one person who would keep coming to get injected, and it was like she would come to get injected every 2 to 3 months. It was getting painful. Like we started with refusing appointments at the desk because what started happening is, I was worried even medically, because beyond the point you could medically endanger somebody, or that person could endanger himself or herself.
And then you'll be responsible for it.
Responsible. Secondly, that person will be seen in your waiting room.
Yeah.
When other people come and they're looking funny. And so you don't want people to say that this doctor has done this job. However, that patient came to the point that she started lying to me. She would go, get injected somewhere else, come back to me, and I would wonder, why is this looking like this? I have injected her 3 months ago. Little bit should have gotten lesser. She would go and re-inject somewhere else.
Oh, so
So
she
what-
would come for the main top job by you and then
Yeah.
do the little job
And-
somewhere else.
This is medically dangerous because there's a product inside. You're putting more product. Maybe you're compressing an artery. Maybe you're compressing a vein. You could cause permanent necrosis. You could have some permanent damage happening. However, that one time what happened is she came and she told me that I want to get injected. And I said, look, you don't need to get injected. Let's do something else. For a change, let's not use a needle. Let's do something like radio frequency. Just tone your skin up. She agreed. We did the toning. She went back. And she's sending me a picture at night and telling me that, look, doctor, thank you for doing, not putting me under the needle. I'm really looking nice. And what had happened is she had gone on my Facebook and Instagram, seen who were my dermatologic friends. She found the number of somebody from my circle. She went to him. She got injected within 1 hour of me refusing to do so. However, that doctor called me up and said that, I think this one is your patient. And she came to me for this injection. This girl goes home, lies to me that she's gone within an hour, re-injected. And she's trying to tell me that I'm happy because she doesn't want to lose me. She doesn't want to lose that doctor.
So she keeps telling you the results are by you.
By you. And that's when I realized that this is getting toxic because she needed psychological help.
But this is
And-
what I mean. This is what I was trying to tell you earlier. Like, I have seen a lot of it is psychological. I meet a lot of people. I have seen girls casually at lunch. One will say, I
Yeah.
feel like my one eyebrow is not equal to the other.
Yeah.
My one lip side is not
Not
equal to the other. I think my nose is too big. And maybe they've lived 30-40 years with this face and they've been happy with it. But
Yeah.
now, because of that whole external validation, because of the world throwing, before you had to buy a magazine. When I was 18, 19, 20, I had to buy a magazine, Cosmopolitan, Vogue, Elle. There were like 5-6 names.
Yeah.
You had to see those pictures and then you knew those are models.
Yeah.
Those are airbrush pictures. Those are Photoshop. That's not actually how skin looks. You
Yeah.
saw one billboard and that
Yeah,
can
yeah,
affect
yeah.
your life so much. But now it's constant, right?
Yeah.
That information is in front of us constantly. Even now, if we are talking about Botox, fillers,
Mm.
skin, I'll open my Instagram, for some reason the algorithm
Adult
changes,
comes
right?
and you get those
And
pictures.
then now I'll be getting reels whole week about the same thing. At some point, it starts to set in. Especially if you're not mentally strong,
Mm.
if you're easily convinced, if you have low self-esteem, you start to believe you need all the treatments that are available.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. As a doctor, how do you say no?
So that incident when we realize that when you say a no, we don't need to give reasons to say a no. Earlier, what I used to do is I used to give reasons. I used to say, no, you're looking nice. No, you're this. Now, we put a hard stop and we say, this is medically unsafe and I can't do it anymore. Of course, they actually go on my website or they go and they write negative reviews also because we say no. But we have to say no. Because
That's good. I think it's very important to have ethical values.
yeah. You have to say no.
Yeah, because there's no end.
There's no
I've
end
seen
to this.
people looking like ducks. I've seen people's like these apple cheeks or
Hmm.
whatever you call them look
Hmm.
like something else because
I
excess
want to,
work.
I want to also tell you there is something which is like a needle addiction. I don't know if you know this, but addictions are of various forms. Like you have an alcohol or drug. People are addicted to pain, and there are
Pain
people-
of the needle.
pain of the needle. And I will give you instances in this that if they come to me and they come for a treatment, and I will say, let's not do a Botox or a filler. Maybe you can do with just a simple another treatment. Because we want to divert them from this whole thing.
What's your take on preventive Botox in the 20s?
Although there is nothing like preventive Botox.
Because everyone talks about it, that
No,
if you
no,
do
no,
it
no.
before 20, before 30, before 25, then it's the right thing.
No,
You
no,
age
no, no, no.
gracefully.
I'm going to stick to it that Botox is a treatment. Botox is not preventive. But there are exceptions. Like in medicine, exceptions prove the rule. So, for example, in your family, you have somebody who has deep-seated 2 lines on their forehead. There's a very typical word for it. We call it the Trishul lines. We have 2 deep-seated frown lines. If you have that tendency, maybe we can start you on Botox in your 30s or late 30s so that those deep-seated lines don't come later. Right? That means what? That you have a very expressive forehead and you're using that muscle a lot. So that's when we can use. But can we do a preventive Botox in the 20s? No. That's an absolutely no. Because we
It's not
cannot.
like one fits all. Everyone in their 20s starts
Absolutely.
off and then
No, we
everyone
can't.
looks- yeah.
We will have to, if somebody comes and is insisting on it, I do ask them that, can you get me a picture of your mother or your father next time you come? I want to know whether it can go to that. Maybe we will help you with that. But I'm completely against the preventive talks at 20s concept. No, that doesn't happen.
Okay, so let's talk about a really important subject to me, skin color. And people assume that skin color bias only exists in our country. But my experience is it exists actually in most countries or all countries in some form or the other. If you go to a Caucasian-led country, even there they ask you, oh, what do you do to have olive skin? What do you do to have brown skin? Why do you have skin that is so good and suntan? So everywhere the skin bias exists in some form or the other. In our country, obviously, it's massive. Can you tell me, how does this skin color dynamics affect a person's mental health?
This is tremendous in our country. And it has nothing to do with social status. It has nothing to do with education. And it has nothing to do, let me also tell you, with a man or a woman. I have men who want to get fairer as well. Now, for a woman, the psychological impact is greater and beyond, because we have parents who get the daughter to us and say that, can you make her a couple of shades lighter? It will be easier for her to get married. And here I'm talking about girls who are doing medicine. I had a family who got their daughter who's doing MBBS. So clearly, just the daughter being smart and bright and having a good education wasn't enough.
So when people come to you for fairness treatments, and let's say the girls are aged between 15 and 25,
Yeah.
what do you say? Do you still go ahead and do it?
I try to first explain to the girl that because I tell the parents that I need some time with your daughter. Because there's no point in telling the parents anything. What needs to be done is telling that girl that great, you are great with your skin. All you need to do is understand that there is a lot more to life than skin color. And you can look great with an olive skin, brown skin. Let's just make your skin healthy. And somewhere on the line, Ashna, I'm not that disappointed in today's generation. They do understand. So if I
Gen
tell
Z.
Gen Z, so if I'm able to tell them, because I cannot change the parent, but I definitely can make the child and that girl who's an adult understand her own worth. And it helps. I'm not saying it helps all the time, but it definitely helps. So I don't send them away because sometimes not giving a solution to somebody is more depressing.
Also, they'll go to someone else.
And that's also, and they're never going to get out of this circle.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, if
yeah.
they come to you and say, I want to become fair, can you
Yeah,
give me the treatment?
yeah.
You'll say no, they'll go to another doctor who's not going to spend time speaking to them and actually explain the consequences of it.
So if I make them understand with the mirror in hand that by giving them a better skin, they're looking nice, I think your job is half done. So I send the parents away and I tell them that next time, please send her to me alone because she's an adult, or you all can wait in the waiting room. And the girls do help their own self-esteem and they speak to their parents, because the other way doesn't work at all. No point talking to those parents and saying, your daughter is educated, she's good looking, aap naak naksha dekho. I used to do that in the beginning. I
Yeah.
used to say her features are so good, look at her hair is so good. It didn't do any good that time.
Yeah, because I think, like you said,
They're
once it's an
obsessed.
obsession, it's an obsession. It is a societal
It is a
obsession.
societal and I feel bad that the mothers do it. The mothers have talked. So, when we say that if you want to change the society,
Start at home.
start at home with the mom. Because we don't know patriarchy begins where. Does it begin with the man or does it begin with the woman? And most often we see that it actually begins with the woman. Because the mother makes the son patriarchal. And that's the way it is. So it helps in changing the girl child, because changing the male child is, I think we have to give up on that right now for some time.
What does true radiance mean to you beyond skin tone?
So radiance is what I call my clinic. And the word just came to me. There was no thought put into it. Nothing. I was just driving around one time when I decided to start my own clinic, and I was told, my father had told me that what I want you to do is, once you do your dermatology, start your clinic first and then get married, because I don't want you to change the location of where you want to start your new clinic depending on where you get married. So I was driving along and I thought what radiance meant to me was being emotionally as well as socially and financially successful. So the meaning of success for women is a little bit different from a meaning of success to a man.
Correct.
For a man, success means making more money. Bottom line. And I'm generalizing. I'm sure there are exceptions. But success to a woman means where you raise your child well, you keep your home well, and you also do your job well. So for
Yeah.
us, success is multifold.
It is. We
So,
need a career. We need
yeah.
a good family life.
Everything.
Yeah.
So today, if someone comes into my house, if a guest comes in and is unhappy with the food, I will take it more personally than my husband takes it.
Correct.
And if I'm out and if somebody says that your daughter is so well brought up, I take it more personally as a success than what my husband takes it. So when I realized that the meaning of success to a woman is so much different from a meaning of success to a man, true radiance is when we as women are truly successful. So it is a combination of a lot of factors, and hence the term radiance.
How beautiful. So tell me, how can practitioners like yourself and others support a shift, from skin shade obsession while still doing their job?
I think if we can bring about education as a way of advertisement for a doctor, means if we can educate people on skin and thereby make them aware of the treatments that we do, it will really help. So if I put across the fact that when we talk about healthy skin, we're talking about hydration, we're talking about, which when I mean hydration, I mean drinking water as well as applying the right products, protecting your skin, getting into a discipline where skincare is concerned, which means fitness as well as skincare at home, and then introducing them to the right procedures to stay youthful over staying young. So, young is a noun, youth is an adjective. When we say youthful skin, we are saying you're looking good for your age.
Correct.
And when you say youth, you're just saying when you say young, you're just talking about young. So, if you can educate on skincare in the right way, I think we will be able to bring about the concept of healthy skin looking good rather than, and I also want to, not about color obsession, I just want to bring about a point. When you see a horse running on a racetrack, they have shiny skin tones, and a brown horse looks as good as a white horse on the race course. That's because the skin or the muscle tone of that horse is so good.
Their
And then
skin
you don't-
actually shines.
Yeah, and that's because the muscle is strong and the skin is well hydrated, because horses have a very good routine. And I think that's where we need to get there, get our thinking to. That you can look great with brown skin and not so great with white skin if the white skin is not well hydrated. So, nourishment, which is inside out, is the way ahead for good skin.
How much do you think of our beauty anxiety is shaped by what we see online?
A lot. I think I can actually say that the anxiety of beauty has come because of the online culture. There was a time when I used to think my biggest enemy where medical skin is concerned was Google, because people used to come reading on Google. However, now people are taking Instagram as the holy grail. Google at least had some basis to it. Instagram has no basis to it. You could probably say something on Instagram and you will not be legally prosecuted for it. There can be someone coming and
And you can say it without research,
without
anyone
research,
holding your collar
because
and asking you how
you can just see that I feel so. Like if I'm going to the gym, I have people who are following YouTube videos for physiotherapy. If they're healing from an injury, they're following videos put on Instagram rather than going to a physiotherapist. So yes, the online thing is misleading people so much, and that is leading to anxiety because it's unreal, right? How do you get anxious when you're unable to understand, when you're unable to comprehend? And that's what is happening because
Yeah, I see tons and tons of videos of regular girls and regular boys making videos of night routine to have the perfect skin.
exactly.
So they do this 10 step and they've bought these very expensive products. Now, it makes me question whether the products have sponsored this, or I don't know how it works, which way it works, who sponsored who, but they are promoting this 10 step. And then I see young girls, young boys, purchasing those products without any knowledge whatsoever that this will work my skin. Firstly, if you're watching a video of a Korean girl, my genetics are different. I can't relate to
Exactly.
it.
Korean skin. Oh my God, that drives me up the wall. Why will an Indian want Korean skin? It is so frustrating because we have patients who come and say, I want the Korean glass skin. Imagine trying to achieve that. It's unreal. It's not
Yeah.
going to happen.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like me trying to have, I don't know, a Latino's body.
Yeah.
They're genetically built
different.
differently.
Different.
Yeah, so it's not possible
Yeah.
actually.
And the thing is, what happens is because of these people talking about a 10-step routine or a 7-step routine, and they are having actives in their routine. Actives are, salicylic acid, a niacinamide, or a retinol in their routine. What are you trying to fix here? Do you need to fix something? Because these actives that you're talking about are actually derivatives of acids. They are derivatives of certain drugs to fix a problem. How can they become a routine? A routine is where you're not fixing a problem, you're maintaining.
I agree. I've seen retinol as something everyone recommends as a routine.
What are you fixing? If I have a 13-year-old who's my brother's daughter, and she uses salicylic acid as a night routine, and I wonder why. And so what I do is I put a placebo in a bottle and I give it to her. And see, now she's using that as a night routine. But she wants a night routine. She
Good.
wakes up in the morning and she wants a morning routine. So again, we put a placebo in a bottle and I said, put this in the morning with your sunscreen. And she's happy. She doesn't know that there is nothing in that bottle. But
It's like people eating gummies as night tablets and
Yes.
thinking they put them to sleep and they
Sleep
sleep better when they're eating gummies.
yes, absolutely. So that's the thing. It is, and this culture, I'm not sure. I mean, you can tell me more because you're more qualified in this, that in that COVID era, this took up a lot because in that COVID and after the COVID or during the COVID era, I had people coming and throwing names to me as if they are household names. Like they will come and tell me, doctor, what percentage of salicylic acid I should use? Rather than asking me, A, should I use salicylic acid?
Yeah.
Or just coming and asking me, can you tell me what should I use? Because you've come to a doctor, right? How can you tell a doctor, can I take 10 milligrams of paracetamol every day? First, A, do you need it? You come to tell me a problem, not giving me a drug name.
But I think the trust is shifting. I think if I see the bottom line of this, it's not about skincare or social media. The trust is shifting. So it brings me to the conclusion that if, let's say, I had gut issues, there was a time that people would go to a gut doctor no matter what. They had no solutions at home.
Yeah.
Because the trust is shifting to social media or online videos or YouTube or whatever they're watching, and they're trusting that more because that has become more relatable. The terms being used are easier compared to what a doctor says. I think they are blindly feeling like this is as good as a doctor. So now people go to even serious conditions, like you said, for physiotherapy or gut issues. And I had visited a doctor a while back. I had some gut issues. I remember him telling me that people come to me with names and ask me,
Yes.
but why not this medicine? And he's like, I'm thinking, do you know anything about this? I studied this for a large chunk of my life. I'm a doctor for a reason. The title doctor is for a reason. So, I think it's that trust that is shifting into common man. You started trusting a 20-year-old good-looking girl who's putting all this on her face and she said, see, this is why my skin is good. You're trusting her more than somebody who has 20 years of experience.
That's true.
So I think the bottom line here is the trust that is shifted.
And I have this thing, which is when a patient enters my office with faith, I can treat them so much better than someone who's coming without faith. Even though I'm doing the same treatment on both of them.
Correct.
The one with faith will show so much better results than the other one who comes without faith and who has questions in their mind because of social media, because of friends. So I don't know whether lack of faith is a personality disorder as now or has become a generational disorder. I don't know. Because is it people who are lacking faith? Or is it that the world, because of being so frivolous, is instilling that lack of faith? I don't know which is true. But I wish we could restore the faith back. And why why I'm now coming and I like coming and talking on podcasts and stuff like that is, I've really realized this, Ashna, that education is the only way ahead.
Yeah, I call it awareness.
I meant education and build awareness.
Because the minute you use the word education, people
I
think
meant,
they don't
yeah.
need. No,
That's
people
true.
think they don't need it.
Oh,
So,
yes, that's true.
Yeah, they're like, no, I'm educated, I don't need it. I think it's
Or
awareness.
they are also confusing information for education. There was a time when we used to, information was attained by effort. Now,
And it was an achievement.
Now information is typing for words. And Google or even Google is not the truth. Google is majority. So if majority of people are writing this, Google will put it out there, right? It doesn't mean it's the fact.
Yeah, correct.
So people are also taking popular opinions as facts.
The point that you made about your 13-year-old wanting a night routine and a day routine, this is something I'm becoming aware of that's happening around the world. I read about it, where the obsession of skin now has started between 10 and 14 more than any other age.
True.
And business owner consumerism is making the most of it. Like you enter Nykaa and you'll see all the teen products. They all are labeled in such a way where they fool you. They're organic and they're good for your skin and they're this free and cruelty free and that free, but they actually may not be. They may be just any regular makeup product. It's just packaged really well. So how do you address, or what would you want to address to the parents who have teenage girls? Like, Are they going to be the big influence of not obsessing about skin? How will they prevent their teenage daughters to be more educated about how they should feel about themselves? And how can they help them realize that self-worth is more than just skin?
It is such a brilliant question right now because I'm so passionate about this, and I'll tell you why. I had somebody in our changing room, okay, of the gym. She is of a certain age, and the father was working with a popular online marketplace. He's telling me the 13-year-old, his daughter, wants to start a line of products. And he says, can you come on board with me? Because my 13-year-old wants to start, she's very passionate about skin and wants to start a line of products for teenage skin. I was like, what does she do? And she goes to school. And what does she understand about skin? Oh, she's very well read about skin.
Scary.
Am I hearing this for real? But it was true. So I think that's where a parent needs to step in.
Yeah.
We have such crazy parents who are encouraging even this.
Yeah.
That not just applying, you can make products.
Yeah.
So it's gone to the next level.
Yeah.
But I think a parent needs to be able to speak to their child. I also want to come in this and saying, because I have a 18-year-old daughter at home. At that age, I think you have a son, so you will be exempted from this problem. But a 14, 15, 16-year-old daughter listens to the friend's mother more than her own mother. I think we could actually form a group and have each other's mothers talking to their daughters, because it has to start at home.
Yeah, it's that rebellious age, right?
Yes.
And you feel like everyone else is right but my mother.
My mother is wrong because my mother doesn't want to spend money on me, and that's why she's saying don't use this. But we need to really on a more serious level have an education program. And again, I'm saying social media handle, as we are saying, is a bad influence. But as the word suggests, we could change it to a good influence as well. It's a tool at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If we use it right, by doing the right kind of talks, and we could probably help, because that's the only way to put a point across. How did the negative point get put across?
I had
social media.
Yeah, I had a very bizarre interaction last week with a mother who's a friend, and she told me she has a 10-year-old where she held a small birthday party for her daughter.
Yeah.
And it was like a play date sort of a thing, and all they wanted to do was they wanted a musician, a few canopies where they can hang out, eat, and they wanted a photographer for some pictures. She said on the surface it sounded okay, but when the party actually happened, which was between 5 and 7 or 8 p.m., all they did was dress up, dance, and take selfies. These were 10-year-olds. And she said the most shocking part at the end of the birthday was when the return gifts came in. And she said, all I got was like 10 envelopes. And each envelope had a Nykaa voucher. So she asked her daughter, how is it that everyone's given this Nykaa voucher? And she said, because at school they asked me, what do you want for return gift? And I said, Nykaa voucher, because I want to buy makeup. These are 10-year-olds. So imagine these 10 girls have decided that's the best thing they can give each other. And now she had these 10 vouchers. Like, so I told my friend, good for you. You go shopping. You don't have to buy all the crap that she's worn. She said, but can you imagine the mindset?
Yeah.
We need to beautify ourselves at 10. You don't even have mature skin at 10.
I think that's where we can bring the change, is not by telling. You cannot tell a 10, 11, 12-year-old girl that don't use beauty products. They're not going to listen to you. We could use the social media in a way we can tell them what can happen at 10, 11 and 12. They are pre-pubertal, and there are definitely healthy things which can be done. Like you can talk about a cleanser, you can talk about a sunscreen, and you can talk about a healthy routine.
And eating,
drinking water, small things. But if we could have some kind of way to put this across, that this is a skincare routine for 10, 11 and 12. And then this is a skincare routine after that for 15, 16, 17. When they get acne, maybe cleanse your skin with a better cleanser. I think that's the way ahead. But we are unfortunately talking about cruelty-free makeup for 10, 11 and 12. So
I think
we are on the wrong track.
And
but I still am hopeful, because we do have a tool as social media. I'm sure if few people like us get together and talk about this more, it will take time, but we'll reach there.
Yeah, I'm
somewhere.
sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people will find reason in it over time. They will see the result of not following the right mindset. They will see the result of that. And I think people will start to realize that, no, it's the wrong way.
And I'm also telling you that it is not too far, because even the skin procedure cycle is somewhere changing. I see it in my office. I see people who are coming and asking now for biostimulators over Botox and fillers. What I mean is, biostimulators are small procedures which are done to stimulate your own collagen, which can start at 30 and 40, so that you don't need finally the Botox and fillers to fix you. You can keep having your own collagen, making more collagen, so you'll continue to look youthful. So the trend is changing. It will be slow, but it will happen because everything is a cycle. You will come back to looking a certain way
Yeah.
over what was there earlier. But it just has to be more talked about, I guess.
Now I'm going to go into the last section. It's called Burst the Bubble. I'm
Okay.
going to ask you a few questions and give me the answer that first comes to your mind.
Okay.
If your clinic chair could record conversations, what would the most common confession it hears?
Whatever you do on me, doctor, don't leave a bruise, because I don't want people to know what I'm doing. And I don't want to go home with my husband asking me, what have you done? So people want to do things, but they don't want anyone else to know, to the point that they're ready to lie about it.
If beauty had a mood, what would it be in 2025? Calm, chaotic, curated, or confused?
It's curated, confused. So we are curating the confusion, is what the mood is going to be.
Agreed. What's one thing you wish every young woman would hear before she books her first cosmetic procedure?
So I'm going to give you a very practical answer to that. What they need to hear is, whatever you're getting into is something that if you want to maintain, you will have to keep doing it lifelong. Because there is no permanent solution in skin. It's not that those solutions are temporary, but your age is temporary. So if you think you're going to come and do this, and then you will not do it after 5 years, that's not going to happen. So get into it only if you're ready to do it for the rest of your life. It's like hair color.
So what's the strangest beauty trend you secretly hope never makes a comeback?
I think face waxing, because there was a time when people used to think when you wax your face, you take the tan off.
I agree.
Yeah. So
I've
it's-
heard of that.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
never done it,
I hope
but yeah.
it doesn't come back. I hope, because now there are other things that people do for tanning, to take the tan off, so they don't go and wax their face, because that was really awful.
Yeah, I think it would ruin the skin.
It
also.
ruined the skin. It would give them those tiny follicular acne, because when you pull the hair off, you get those tiny boils, and it's not good. The collagen would go, the hydration would go. So no.
If confidence came in a bottle, what would the ingredients say and what would be missing?
Ingredient should say self-esteem, and I am going to add this note that I would like girls to be on a larger level financially independent, because it really contributes to a confidence. So the confidence bottle should say that. So what I want to be missing is that they wanted girls to be fair, slim, and tall, because it has to go beyond just appearances for a girl. High time.
What's one skincare myth that makes you want to throw a serum bottle at the wall?
I'm going to say this, okay? The salmon sperm. I've always wondered where they get the sperm from. How have they managed to get the salmon sperm? So I think I can throw a bottle on the wall when someone comes and asks me for a salmon sperm facial.
So if filters were banned tomorrow, what do you think would happen to the cosmetic industry?
I think it will collapse, because the filters are giving unreal goals, and because of which people are going out there and buying more and more and more products. If those filters go away and people start putting their real pictures, people will start getting comfortable in their skin, and they will get back to just that routine of washing your face 2 times a day, using a sunscreen and a moisturizer. It will end there.
Like you said, healthy
Like you
skin.
said, healthy skin.
Yeah.
The filters they need to be banned.
Thank you so much. That was
Yeah.
such an insightful conversation, and I'm really grateful to have you today.
Thank you, Ashna. It was so good, because I love it when we can have opinions and views being shared, because I got to know so much from you as well about that birthday party especially. So it was really insightful. Hi, I'm Dr. Falguni Shah. I had a great conversation with Ashna on the Therapy Diaries, where I spoke about beauty, filters, fillers, and finding your identity. You can catch the episode on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from.